Hey, what is going on? It is Sam Gibson here, back again for the Why You Overeat podcast. And I'm very excited today because I am having an amazing conversation, I'm sure it will be, with one of my former clients, Stacy, who's kindly agreed to jump on the podcast today for a chat. How are you doing, Stacy? You okay?
I'm doing really well. It's good to see you.
I know we chat back and forward on WhatsApp. No, I wouldn't say frequently, but every now and again we'll have a good chat on there. But it's been probably a year since I've seen you on camera, hasn't it?
Camera, definitely. Yeah. Usually when something big's happened, we connect or we've got an update, we catch up. But yeah, it's been a while since we've been face to face.
I know it has. Like we've been talking off air and before this podcast started. Obviously, we're gonna talk a little bit about your journey of not just overcoming the main thing that we do in our coaching program, which is emotional eating, of course, but obviously we'll have a conversation how that links into other things like mental health, emotional regulation, limiting beliefs, past experiences. And we're going to talk a little bit about your journey today because I worked with you end of 2024, early 2025. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah. And I remember saying to you, I don't know if you remember this, but I remember saying to you, like, I'm very surprised at how like intellectual and how fast you picked up a lot of the things. You just seemed to pick up a lot of the things that I was teaching around limiting beliefs and emotional regulation. You just seemed to do it very, very fast. And I saw you, change fairly quickly, if that's the right way to describe it. You just seemed to just go off like an absolute rocket. And by the end, you were just totally transformed that mindset, transformed that relationship with food. And, you were kind of free to express yourself and be yourself. And that was one of the main things that I remember working with you. It was just like, just be yourself. You were not expressing yourself by your values enough. You kind of like dampening your own creative spirit a little bit. And that was one of the main reasons why you were struggling. But we can kind of get into it a little bit more today. And I'm going to let you open up and share because obviously it's your story, not mine. So I guess my first question I've got for you, Stacey, is before you kind of started your personal development journey, joined the coaching program, what was the struggles that you were having with food that so many other women probably resonate with? But what was your version of struggling with your relationship with food?
So I've watched a lot of your other clients and listened to their stories, and a lot of them, the problems started very early on. Maybe there was trauma, maybe it started in childhood, and that wasn't the case for me. I always had a very healthy relationship with food. It wasn't until I had my children um, that that major change in my life and how the body changes so dramatically from pregnancy and becoming a mum, and how your life kind of gets rearranged for you. That's where my unhealthy habits started, but I didn't realize it, if that makes sense, because there was so much going on at that time in my life in general. I think the negative eating habits was a side effect of me trying to adjust to that new phase of life. Does that make sense?
Makes absolutely perfect sense, Stacey. And I've kind of debated back and forth with people on this. So they might have read my book or seen other things, and they might see me post about, oh, emotional eating usually starts in childhood. The seeds are often planted through trauma or through the dynamic with your parents or things like that. That's usually not always. And sometimes people hear that and go, well, that doesn't apply to me. And they kind of get a little bit triggered. I'm like, you've got to listen to what I'm saying here. It is absolutely normal. And I'll die on that hill. Normally it is that, but it's not always that. And again, I've worked with thousands of people and I see that. So you can specifically go, it was at this stage of my life where things really started changing. But the fact remains that emotional eating often develops when you go through a big transition or I don't want to say the word trauma because I mean, I'm not want to put words in your mouth. Being a mum, new time mum, is it traumatic? I don't know. Is that the word for it? Or is it more just a big life overhaul that's very difficult to deal with, and that could be perceived as maybe the same thing. But emotional eating is often an adaptive response to stressful life circumstances. That might not be in childhood, but it's still the same rule applies. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. And I've heard it before. Sarah was doing so well. Everything was fine. I was doing healthy. I was following my own goals. I decided to start a family, which I'm sure is one of the best decisions of your life. And there's absolutely zero regrets, but there's absolutely no taking away from that. How difficult that must be for your identity because you totally changed overnight, aren't you? So would you say that was that big in hindsight, looking back, it was that massive identity shift that you just struggled to actually deal with?
I think what I struggled with was I was 24 when I had my first son, and I had this pressure and this belief that, okay, I've become this new role of mother. I had this new baby, but there's this pressure of going back to the former version of me, the bounce back that they like, that media and societal standards like to push onto you. So for me, right from the get-go, I went through a very traumatic pregnancy and delivery. I've got this new life that I'm responsible for, and I'm stressing over, do I fit into my jeans? It's not a good
There you
time to
go.
give up cake and to be shaming yourself. Do you know what I mean? And that's kind of where I was.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're similar age ranges, similar, in the same decade, I presume. And we've talked before about like diet culture, and I've talked to many other women about it. It's like that early 2000s, or even mid to late 2000s. It was like Kate Moss, Kim Kardashian, like Britney
Yes.
Spears. It's like you had all these people in society, these women in society, where it's like that is the standard. If you don't look like her, there's something wrong with you. And I don't know about you, Stacey, but I sometimes see like old clips from like these TV programs from the 2000s. I can't remember the guy's name, but he's got like fair hair, he's got like glasses. And it was like a show where basically he would just go to the house and Fat Families, I think it was called, when he would just go and completely shame them. And I'm like, this, like, oh, Gillian McKeith's You Are What You Eat, and they'd get them on camera
Yeah.
and put the couple together and like strip them off. And it's like, they wouldn't dream of doing that now, but that was the programming. It was like bombarded left, right, and center. Magazines, TV programs, you know. And you will look at it now and go like, oh my God, like no wonder so many women, or even men to a degree, but just obviously we were women
Yeah.
mainly, so we're talking about that. But it was just the standard of that time period where there was a lot of body shaming going on. So I can totally empathize and understand where you felt that pressure of the bounce back. And I bet so many women who are listening who maybe experience struggling with their relationship with food or body image, because it's kind of the same thing. I think the relationship with food is often the consequence to the body image issues, and it's the limiting beliefs around the body and holding yourself to a standard that is maybe unrealistic that causes the dysfunctional relationship with food. So would you say
Mhm.
that was like the main catalyst for you that drove, because of that pressure to change, because of that pressure to bounce back? Did that result in some your diet tendencies, some emotional eating? Well, what would you say?
It's I wish that I could go back to that 24-year-old version and just be so much kinder to her. I put way too much pressure on myself. And because my husband's American, I've moved to America to start my family. So not only have I gone through this massive transformation, I don't have, yes, I had his family and friends, but it isn't the same. I didn't have my friends around me. I didn't have, my people. So I'm in a country
Yeah.
that's not mine, away from my family and friends. I've got this new role as parent. The country operates different to what I'm used to here. For example, your maternity leave, you get 6 weeks maternity leave in New York,
Phew.
which is, do you know what I'm saying? You haven't really recovered from the delivery, and you're already, back to work and earning that paycheck. So, I was a working mum and wife without my support systems. So it's no wonder that I found comfort in food.
And obviously you, for anyone I didn't know, Stacy actually helped me with my book. You've done a lot of the spell checking and editing, shall we say, because
Yeah.
I've got a great mind, but writing is not my I think it was probably 6,000 spelling checks to do. So anyway, Stacey helped me with that kindly, um, at the time. And you're obviously aware of the voids, the concept of the whole void. That's the whole concept of the book. I'll get you up there. Why you overeating, how to stop for good. The whole concept of the book is getting you to realize that your relationship with food is the consequence to these set of 7 voids. And obviously we talk about other things as well, but that's the main kind of spine of the book. One of the voids is feeling disconnected from your tribe, from your community. Obviously you had your husband and your family over there, which is great, but it was still a massive life change for you. You're taking yourself out of England, going over to America, coincided at this time when you're having this big identity shift. I'm not surprised you maybe just struggled to adapt and struggled with your mental health, I guess. Would you say that was
Yeah,
that
it
was
was a
fair to
lot.
say?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So let's kind of fast forward a little bit. So in the couple of months leading up to you deciding to work with me, what was actually going on at that time? What was your relationship with food like? What was some of the things you were struggling with when it comes to eating habits? What were you trying to utilize as far as methods to change that you were maybe struggling with? What was going on in that, let's say, 6 months before you discovered me and started working with me? What was going on at that time?
So at that time, I'd already moved back to the UK with my family. And I think I had in my head that returning home would just fix all issues. And in some ways it did. But then the roles became reversed. So all the struggles that I went through being in America, now my husband was going through being here with me. So there was strain on the relationship with that because he's trying to adjust to a country that's not his. Um, my body I'm still battling with body insecurities and identity and shame around self-image, like a body dysmorphia, because now I've got two children and I still haven't bounced back completely. So there's this negative cycle of I'm not where I feel like I should be. Um, I just became very disconnected in all aspects. So I was hiding from my husband. So an example, if I was upstairs getting ready for bed and I could hear him coming upstairs, I'm hurrying to get changed and covered up because I don't want him to see me. So there's an emotional disconnect, even though he's never treated me in any way to make me feel like there was something wrong or inadequate. That's what I believed. If I'm uncomfortable in my own skin, he can't possibly find me attractive. He's just being nice because he's my husband and can't afford to divorce me. So that's what I had sort of in my head where he's
Talk about
concerned.
a limiting belief there. Like that's a hell of an assumption you've just made up as a result of feeling, struggling with your own perception, which I'm not invalidating. But can you see how limiting beliefs or insecurities that we have can so easily convince us of things that aren't true? So what you've just said there is I'm struggling with my relationship with my body and food and things like that. I'm not quite confident, which is, it is what it is, and that's difficult for you. But then because of that, it can really, that devil on the shoulder can convince you of other things that aren't true. So my husband is just being nice to me, can't possibly find me attractive, and he probably wants to divorce me, he just can't afford it. It's like, whoa, where did he get that from? So this is one thing I say to my clients all the time. I'm like, be very, very careful of what that devil on the shoulder is telling you, because a lot of people's binges come as the result of believing these false limiting beliefs to be
Yeah.
true. And obviously you can look back on that now and almost laugh about it. And I'm glad you can, because that shows a lot of emotional growth. But at the time, if you're believing that, like you are being tortured by this devil on the shoulder, convincing you of things about your body and about yourself, and it bleeds into every other area of life, doesn't it?
Well, so like I said, he's going through his own struggles trying to adjust and working and living in a new country. And then we're not even getting along because I'm turning around, shooting down any compliment, any reassurance he tries to offer, which would then cause an argument because his patience is running thin. Like, I'm just not going to bother complimenting you or even trying if you're not even going to try to listen to me. So it did put a lot of pressure on us in that sense. I also started, so in returning home, reconnect me with my friends, but I felt so self-conscious in my outward appearance that I was avoiding social events. Would find excuses to not go because people would be taking pictures and I didn't want this record of how I looked at that time. Wasn't self-accepting at all.
Yeah. And this is why I get so passionate and sometimes on my high horse and rant a little bit about this sort of topic, Stacey, because it's not just about eating habits. It's about how does the way that you are currently eating, which again we've established is a side effect of how you are thinking, how does this bleed into other areas of your life? So I've said this before, but probably one of the reasons why you reached out to me via your email or whatever it was, because you've been reading my content. It's like emotional eating doesn't just cost you your confidence in your body. It can cost you your marriage, because if you're so self-conscious, you can have problems, and it causes arguments, it causes resentment, it causes a whole host of things. It can impact your ability as a parent, because if you don't have the energy, you're going to be snappy, you're going to be ratty, you're not going to be able to hold space for the very volatile emotions young children will be bringing to you. If you're not on top of your game, you're going to lose your shit, and then you're going to feel guilty, resentful, mum guilt, dad guilt, all that sort of stuff. It can impact your ability in relationships in many ways. Of course, avoiding social occasion, that makes me really sad. Like I say, I can't, I've got my friends, but I'm going to isolate myself from them because, and I've been there myself. I have been there myself. So I don't want people to look at me. I don't want people to see me. It's like, how long can you let this go on for until you realize that I've got to fix this? I've got to sort this out, because it's not just the eating habits. The eating habits and your body is the tip of the iceberg. It's the knock-on effect that it has on all these other areas. And that's what makes me really sad, that there's people who've been struggling with this for decades, but are still following fad diets, thinking that it's all gonna the next diet's going to work. You know what I mean?
I
It's
never tried the other diets because I didn't like them. I think on a deeper level, if I went to any, whether it was, a Slimming World, a Weight Watchers, an online program, it would mean some sort of acknowledgement or self-awareness. And I did not want to acknowledge the state that my mindset was in at that time because that was very, very uncomfortable and very overwhelming. So instead I would withhold food. I would try to not eat as much. It was almost not starving. I don't want to go to that extreme, but I would try to cut back, and it was all the wrong foods in the wrong way. And then I would not be able to sustain it. So then I would overeat and then drown in guilt because I couldn't maintain the discipline. I tried to do it by
that's a
myself.
very valid. Yeah, that's a very valid point. And that's interesting you should say that. So yeah, a lot of people who are listening will be like, well, I've tried all the Slimming World diets, to this, to that. You might have not actively pursued that intentionally. Your version to try to fix this was, well, I'll just eat less. I'll just eat less, so it's kind of a different way of doing it, but the same sort of mindset of, I am not good enough as I am. I need to, this is all subconscious, of course. You're not actually having this conversation with yourself, but what it represents is, I'm not good enough as I am. I don't like my body. I am going to punish myself by withholding food until I reach that goal weight, and I'm going to stick to it until I reach that. But obviously we know that's unsustainable. And then obviously you go the other way, what goes up must come down. And I often see this inner rebellion from a lot of women when they feel forced to restrict or forced to go on a diet, or even whether that's coming from themselves or something else, they'll eventually rebel. And what do you rebel on? You rebel on chocolate, cookies, crisps, cake, because
Mm-hmm.
that's all the things that you punished yourself. That is,
Oh,
again, a side effect of low self-esteem. It's, I'm not good enough as I am, so I'm going to punish myself. Then eventually the devil on the shoulder goes, F this, screw this. What's the point? Just go the other way. And then the binge happens to release that tension. And then guess what happens? Guilt, shame, and you often rebound even more. I'm going to restrict even harder. So again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is that literally the cycle that you were in?
absolutely. I wouldn't just punish with withholding food. I would punish with exercise. So if I didn't, I wouldn't always have a full blown binge, but I would punish myself for the smallest of things. So maybe I've been eating my salads and my chicken and broccoli and these very basic, simple meals. And then I'd eat a Snickers and be like, oh, I can't believe I did that right on the treadmill, trying to burn off a Snickers. And it's like, really, in the grand scheme of things, it was a Snickers.
Yeah, I've
Why
been there
feel
myself.
so?
I've been there myself. Obviously, inside the coaching program, Stacy, I do a Q&A every Friday for the clients. I literally did one last night, and this topic come up. Someone said, Sam, I found myself realizing that I sometimes over-exercise to undo some of my emotional need. And I'm like, I've been there before. So I would sometimes it would either be unintentional and I'd punish myself with an hour on the treadmill the next morning, or I would actually make bargains with myself. I would start the bargaining process, which is never a good thing, the bargaining process. If I eat this, mine was like Ben and Jerry's ice cream. If I eat this tub, then if I do 2 workouts tomorrow, one in the morning, one in the evening, and if I do an extra 10,000 steps, I'll be able to roughly make up for it. Right, okay, I'll do it. And I would play these little games with myself while I'd justify a binge and then punish myself with more exercise. Or if a binge happened, I would punish myself with exercise. So that's just such a negative relationship with your body and by extension, exercise. And you'll end up beginning to resent exercise because the relationship with exercise is, it's a tool to undo my binges or undo my low self-esteem rather than oh, I get to exercise. I can't wait to exercise today. I enjoy exercise. So many emotional eaters or people who are struggling with their relationship with their body and food have a terrible relationship with exercise also.
Absolutely. I did go, I haven't done this in years. This was way back when the eating habits first started getting unbalanced. It's probably about a year and a half after my first child. I used to hang up on hangers my pre-baby clothes and would hang them around the house as inspiration, a constant visual reminder. Check yourself, otherwise that won't fit. You can't wear that dress in 6 months if you eat that.
Yeah.
That was
And again,
bad.
it's such a nuanced conversation, this, because I'm not anti-weight loss and I'm not anti-pursuing your body goals. I'm just anti-doing it the wrong way. So if we can just position weight loss or wanting to, bounce back post-pregnancy, there's generally nothing wrong with that. It's just what circumstances physically and emotionally are we trying to pursue that? That's the problem. You know, and I think the world is very black and white. And I think there's not enough nuanced conversations like this where we're saying the intention behind something can be genuinely okay. But because that intention is okay, we sometimes miss the unintended consequences of the pursuit of that well-intentioned thing. You know, I don't know who said this quote. I think it might have been Nietzsche or something. It's like, you know, the path to hell is waved with good intentions. It's like so many women are like, yeah, of course I want to lose weight. It's going to improve my confidence. It's going to improve my self-esteem. It's going to improve my relationship. And that's not wrong. I'm not anti that. But little things like that, you can see on the surface, it seems like motivation to get back to my pre-baby weight. But that's, again, it's punishing yourself every single day, and it's actually adding pressure. And I think one of the main ingredients that causes women to struggle with emotional eating is the pressure they are putting on themselves to do it in a certain time frame, a certain deadline, in a certain way, and that it never works. You know, so it saddens me that obviously you fell victim to that. But of course, circumstances have obviously changed. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been having this conversation. So before we kind of move into the middle part of like, right, you've started this process, you've accepted you needed help. What was the penny drop moment for you where you were like, I need to do something about this, you know? Was it something I posted, something I said, or had you already made your own mind up and then you actively went looking for help? What was the penny drop moment when you know you needed help?
I'm a chronic overthinker. I don't do anything impulsively. I've been watching your content for about a year. Um, for me, I got to a point where I was so emotionally disconnected from almost everything in my life. I was struggling at work. I was avoiding hanging out with friends. My husband and I were becoming very, very detached. And it was having a negative impact on my children as well, because the way that I was treating myself and talking about my body, they were picking up on it. And I'm thinking, I'm raising two boys and I'm not teaching them how to, like, they can't grow up with unrealistic expectations of a woman's body. And why am I teaching them that being insecure and hating my body and covering up is normal? That's not going to give them the tools to go into healthy adult relationships. And my husband, in an attempt to try and reconnect with me, he just said, you know, we'll go down to our local pub and we'll just have a couple of drinks together and we'll just spend some time together. And I'd already had a conversation with you. I'd reached out and I did all this by myself. I didn't talk to anybody. I just plucked up the courage to message you, and you were very embracing. I felt very reassured. So when we went down to the pub, I told my husband, oh, I've hired this nutrition coach, and he freaked out, was like, oh my God, it's probably a scam. Some guy you met on the internet, what you're doing, get your money back, and completely freaked out. And I
Oh
just
God.
burst into tears in the pub. And I just said, I feel so alone and so burnt out and so broken. He's not a scam. He's a local lad. I've been watching him for over a year. If he was fake, something would have come out by now. Do you know what I mean? I was a part of
You're
your
not the
community.
only person who's had a conversation with me about that. Like, obviously, I'm not going to reveal confidential stuff, but I've heard some horror stories about unsupportive partners. Let's just leave it at that. But that reaction from your husband, he's just trying to look out for you. Honestly, I don't take that personally, because
Yeah,
there
no.
is so much scamming about there. Like, I understand you've just met some guy on the internet and give him a couple of £100 or a
And you've
thousand
given
quid,
him your
whatever it was.
money.
What the hell? I know,
No,
I get it. It's totally
he
normal.
completely freaked out. So I'm in the local pub crying. And
Oh,
I didn't care who saw at that point. And it was quite a courageous moment for me to be able to stand there and not stand up to him like he's controlling, but when someone that close to you that you love is saying this is bad, it takes a lot to counteract and say no, it's not. It's exactly what I need. So that was my moment. I just became so disconnected and so emotionally vulnerable. I needed something or
right.
someone outside of that whole dynamic that could sort of look in at my whole situation, that I wasn't emotionally attached to, that I didn't have the fear of
I suppose
disappointing, someone that could make me feel any more guilt, just someone far, far away that could almost be a clean slate for me. So it took
very
me
valid
being
point.
very broken to finally admit that I needed help.
Yeah, and I've heard therapists, counselors, other coaches talk about this. Yes, you need support, moral support from family members and things like that. But if you're really in a bad place and you need some help, one of the healthiest things you can do is get some outside support, because this person is going to be a second pair of eyes, a fresh pair of eyes on your personal situation that has a perspective that is how to describe it, that they're not emotionally attached. So when your family members, people you love, they are emotionally attached to you. And sometimes they either struggle to tell the truth, they tell little white lies to make you feel better, or they will just all out be in denial because they don't want to upset you or hurt you. Now that creates short-term comfort and safety, but so many people ruin their life as a result of not having someone who can be completely separated from the family dynamic and just be that trusted confidant who's not emotionally attached to you, who's just logically attached, who can empathize with your emotions, but who can say things how it is and how they are. And I think also it represents something that's just yours. This coaching, this pursuit, this goal, it was just yours. You weren't Stacy the mum or Stacy the wife. You were Stacy the individual. And sometimes you need someone to help you who's not connected to anything that you've currently got in your life. Because what you've currently got in your life, it's all attached to all of the emotional stuff, the dynamics that you're trying so hard to work through. And having that second pair of eyes is so powerful, but it requires a lot of honesty and vulnerability and acceptance, you know. And when I'm doing consults with people, and I probably said it to you as well, because it's the same thing I say all the time, I can teach anyone how to overcome emotional eating, how to improve their limiting beliefs, how to pursue healthy weight loss in a long-term aspect without, you know, short-term quick fixes, how to change their life. I know I can do that, but I can't teach you honesty, vulnerability, and the willingness to accept that you need help. That's got to come from you. So when that penny drop moment happens, I know the rest is gonna happen. But of course, that's the very valid point about needing something from the outside to help you that's just yours. So let's talk a little bit about when you first started, because so many people say this. They go, Sam, I thought you were just going to give us a meal plan and I would just be set on my way. That's not what it is it?
No, it's not. And I'll be honest, I was expecting a shopping list and a workout plan. So it did throw me when our first interaction was, so tell me about yourself. I'm like, what? It was more, you know, where are you at? How's your relationships? Do you have, you know, family? What are your hobbies? What are your interests? And it was a spotlight on me, which was surprising, but also uncomfortable because I hadn't put myself up front and center and really focused on me. And for a while, yeah, you can say, well, I do this for a job and I'm married and I've got children. Okay, well, what do you do for fun? And it's cricket, because I'd sort of lost that little part of myself a little bit. I was like, oh, I don't have fun because I'm too busy for fun. So it was like talking to a friend that you've just met. Not what I expected.
That's my favorite question, you know. That's my favorite question, because my whole point, it's like, I want to do the Uno reverse, the rug pull. And I want to be like, bang, that's what you're emotionally mic drop. So I'll go, oh, tell me a little bit about yourself, you know. And obviously I'm from the Carl Jung school of thought, right? I love Carl Jung. He's one of my mentors, idols. Obviously he's dead now. He's a 20th century psychologist, but I love his work. And I like, you know, I'm inspired by him. And he says, before you start making adjustments to people's lives and telling them what to do, giving them advice, get the chance to understand them. So I want to know what's going on with you, where you at in your life, because he can predict what strategies will help particular people based off what they reveal about themselves, okay? And when when I often ask that question, okay, so what do you do for fun? What's the most exciting part of your week? And then, like you said, it's crickets, and you're like, nothing. Not like, mic drop. That is why you're struggling with food. How could we possibly get you to find some sense of excitement, joy, and creativity in your life? And let's say hypothetically, if you were to find that, do you think that would impact your mental health?
Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously that was our first conversation. So what was one of the things I recommended is say, yeah, you have to start putting yourself up the list. Yes, you're still Stacy the mum, Stacy the wife. Those are massive parts of your identity. But there's this piece of the, you know, like a pie chart. You've got different chunks, like certain percentages. Imagine your life like that. You've got all the different things. You've got work, you've got family, you've got all your other responsibilities. And so many women who are struggling with the relationship with food, they've got all them boxed off. But when it comes to themselves, completely empty. We need to get a certain percentage of their identity in their life to be about putting themselves first. And they can do that. This is not asking you to just step away from your relationships with your children and, you know, all that sort of stuff. That's the all or nothing mindset coming out. You have to have the mindset of abundance where I can find the time for myself. I've just got to be very disciplined and organized, and I need to learn how to do that. I might not know that right now, but that does exist. And once you snap out of scarcity, oh, there's not enough time, I can't put myself first, There's never enough opportunity. Nothing ever good happens to me. That's a scarcity mindset. When you snap out of that and enter abundance, okay, how can I possibly find the time? What's the opportunity for me to put myself first? How can I have balance across all the different areas of my life? You just start thinking differently. And that was the turning point that I saw for you. You started believing that you can put you first again.
You gave me quite a firm kick up the rear on that one. Do remember a conversation. It wasn't our first conversation, but I'm queen of excuses. And I had an answer for everything. And I remember you saying, yeah, well, how old are your boys? And now they're 13 and 17, but they were still sort of capable ages. Let's label it that. And you said, well, they're boys. What do they do to contribute? And I was like, well, they go to school all day. And you're like, nah, no. You can't do, carry the marriage by yourself. You can't carry a house by yourself. You can't do everything for everybody and have time for yourself. You need to step back and delegate some responsibility, get your husband involved, get the kids involved, and steal little pockets of time for yourself. And that's literally how I found balance. I might not have had all the time I wanted right off the bat, but I could steal 20 minutes by giving each boy one task to do and taking a step back. And the mum guilt was real. I still struggle with it now.
Of course.
But it was a conversation to have with my husband. I said, we need to start pulling together because I can't work and be Susie homemaker. There's got to be some balance because I'm losing my mind over here. So he doesn't have mum guilt at all. He's like, yep, those boys can get to work. So he'd, be assigning stuff right and center. And I would catch myself undermining him. It's like, well, that seems a bit much. And he's like, what are you doing? Like, it's us, we're a team, and we're supposed to be raising them right. And he said, why are you catering to them? So there's been a lot of self-reflection and self-awareness that's had to be worked on and trying to find a balance.
Yeah, no, I love that point. I appreciate you sharing that, Stacy. And it's kind of reminded me of other conversations I've had with many other clients of mine who are obviously women, mums in that maybe 30s, 40s, maybe early 50s, who've got not very, very young kids, but slightly older kids. And the struggle with that adaptation out of, because motherhood comes in phases, from the age of 0 to 3, they're literally attached to the hip, skin to skin. You don't put them down. And then from let's say 3 to 10 or 11, they're young children that you've got to be monitoring and with all the time, even though a little bit more independent. And then when they hit 13, 14, 15, that's a whole different story. They do not need you. And I see so many mums who are working with me who are like, my kids. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm going to offend a lot of people who are listening right now, but I'm like, listen, you are full of shit, right?
Yes.
You are straddling yourself by mum guilt because you're actually afraid to look at what's on the inside, and you're using the whole mum thing as martyrdom, whatever the word is, as a martyr to actually hide from yourself. I see women with school-age children do that all of the time. And it's not me saying that they're not prioritizing motherhood, but this mum guilt, it's a manufactured belief that is convenient because it allows you to avoid dealing with yourself. It's easier to say, well, I can't because I'm a busy mum. I can't because my kids need me. I'm like, let's be very honest for a second. Let's cut the crap, right? I'm not invalidating the struggles, but listen, you can carve 20 minutes a day out where your kids do the dishes. Because if you're full of resentment of, no one ever helped me, all I've got to do is mum stuff, that's what's causing the dysfunctional relationship with yourself. And then when I dare to challenge that, so many women will go, well, I can't change. I'm like, what do you want? You're accepting an identity that you're actually resenting. It's like, can you not see that, that meme where it's like Scooby-Doo and it's like Fred pointing at the man in the mask? It's like, he takes it off and it's him. It's like, it's that meme, or the Spider-Man meme where they're all pointing to each other. That is your life. You're saying you're unhappy and you're resentful of all of the mum stuff. But then the moment I bring up a conversation about putting yourself first, you use the mum stuff as the excuse to deflect. That is the ego going, I'm too afraid to delve what's on the inside, so I'm just going to play this role. And so many women are not ready for that conversation. But the women I've worked with, like yourself, who when they finally acknowledge that, it sets them free. And you actually realize I can be an amazing mum, an amazing wife, still do all the things that I need to do, but just put myself first. And the consequence of that is you have more energy, you have more self-belief, you have more confidence, you're not as snappy, and you realize that your children actually get a better role model. So thank you for allowing me to spew that there. Otherwise, people might have been offended. I just come up with that on my own.
For those that haven't actually gone through that transition yet, there are pleasant surprises at the end of it. It's actually made my communication with my children much better because it's given them, even though they might complain, oh, I don't want to do the dishes, But my eldest has said, you know what? I like having responsibility. It gives me a sense of achievement. And we have very
Yeah.
honest conversations. I've got too much going on. I'm on the late finish tonight. You're going to have to clean up. You need to contribute. You live here. So it's not really resentful. It has made us closer in other ways because we communicate more clearly.
Yeah. Oh, no, my point was you would have been resentful if you never had those conversations because you would have
Absolutely.
been having to all the slack. And then that resentment, I think resentment, guilt, and shame are the three emotions that are always underneath emotional eating. And a lot
Mhm.
of and resentment comes from not speaking the truth. It comes from hiding truth. It
Yes.
comes from suppressing emotion. Guilt obviously comes from standards that you are holding yourself to that you feel that you can't break. And then I guess shame comes from not meeting your own expectations, you know. So this is so many things that we can walk through. And again, it's backing up my point that emotional eating is the tip of the iceberg. It's often a result or a consequence of the dysfunctional way that you are living in your life. So let's look back to when you first started the coaching program. We'd kind of had these conversations, and the first month is just all about let's figure out what's going on. Then we actually started pursuing some more physical targets, you know. So tell me about the turning point when you actually started going, you know what, I can believe in myself. I'm seeing an improvement in my relationship with food. I'm starting to let go of some of the beliefs that were holding me back. I'm maybe approaching my nutrition in a new way. Because like I said, I didn't put you on a diet per se, but I give you some basic targets that would allow you to pursue weight loss in a healthier way. Tell me a little bit about your experience with that.
I didn't have what I would call a ta-da moment. There wasn't like this massive, shiny, sudden awareness where I'm like, oh, this is great. It just kind of crept up gradually. Um, Control is a big thing for me. So I don't really let people, being vulnerable and being open can be easy, but I still withhold. I'll let you see what I want you to see. And your techniques and your questioning, you were able to kind of break down some of those barriers once in a while when I wasn't ready for you to do that. So that was quite, it's nice because we want to be seen and we want to be heard authentically. But at the same time, when control is such a thing for you and someone's just casually knocked down that wall, that can be really, really scary. Um, I just, the voice inside my own head just started to change. So a basic example might be if I'm triggered, I would run straight to the cupboard and dive into the biscuit tin. There was not even really aware of what I'm doing. I just kind of zone out and we're on a mission for the food. And I noticed that I would start having a little bit of an inner conflict. So something would trigger me and I would be on the way to the biscuits, but on the way to the kitchen, I'd be like, why are you doing this? Actually think for a minute. And there was like, I didn't always win the argument, but at least there was a conversation, which I wasn't having before. So it was almost like a very subtle unlearning or an unwinding process where these habits they were still happening, but less frequently. And it was sometimes I could win. I might only delay it by 10 minutes and still end up in the biscuit tin, but I wasn't eating 50 biscuits in, rapid succession. I was able to eat maybe, two or three and calm it down and kind of rein it back in a lot quicker than I was. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense, and it actually backs up exactly what I tell people when they first start with me. So let's just put cards on the table. If you are someone who's struggled, I'm talking hypothetically, of course, but whoever resonates, resonates. If the shoe fits Cinderella, as they say, if you've struggled with your relationship with food for possibly decades, which many women have, so you've been yo-yo dieting, comfort eating, struggling with, like you said, moments of dysregulation, going to the biscuit tin, comfort eating food, and then going, oh my God, what am I doing that for? Struggled with weight, things like that. Are you going to really join my program and on day one be like, I'm cured? It's like, no, there's a
Yeah.
process for a reason. And I think it takes a minimum of three months. That is the minimum amount of time I work with someone. Sometimes people work with me longer, because it's more ingrained, but 3 months is the minimum because that's 90 days of repetition that we're going to try. So if you've been emotionally eating for 3 decades, you have to be honest with yourself and say, I'm going to have to phase this out over time. So what the first part of transformation looks like is what you've just said. It's that awareness, because before, so many people are struggling with emotional eating and they're not even aware of it until after it's happened. They're like, oh my God, I've done it again. How the hell did that happen? So if we're able to bring that awareness forward when you still might reach, but you're like, what am I doing this for? What are the emotions underneath the surface? So I would ask you questions on calls like, what was the feeling that was present the moment the food noise was strong? You know, what situations happened that day that actually triggered you? You know, how did you feel during it? How did you feel after it? Then the most important thing, What was you mentioned the word bounce back before about the bounce back to pregnancy. I talk about the bounce back ability from when you binge to getting back on track, that buffer zone between action and response. And again, what often causes the damage to like weight gain and things like that, it's the initial, oh, well, I've already done it now, I might as well continue. But what I say to
Yeah.
my clients in the program is emotional eating still might happen. But if we can categorically see the data between you, when you first started, you were overeating almost every day. It was just a habitual thing. By the end of the first month, you're overeating once or twice a week. Might be every week, but it's once or twice a week. By the end of the 90 days, you're overeating once or twice a month. But the most important thing, when you do overeat, it doesn't continue into a second, a third, a fourth, fifth episode, because so many
Mhm.
people, the damage isn't that initial, oh, I crammed a few biscuits in my mouth. It's the, oh, I crammed a few biscuits in my mouth. Then I told myself and convinced myself I'm a failure and I might as well order a takeaway with Domino's, Ben& Jerry's and cookie dough to feel sorry for myself because I've already ruined it. So it's the
Yep.
ability to separate each overeating episode in isolation and understand that that's a response to specific triggers that maybe you weren't aware of at that time. But through
Mhm.
every overeating setback, you can look at it and go, what logically happened there? And that is all I teach you guys. And as a result, at the end of that, you have more awareness. So the frequency of how often you overeat dramatically decreases. But also when you do overeat, you're able to go, I caught myself. I know exactly why I did that. I can see the specific reasons. I'm going to look out for that in the future. So your response is better as well. Once we move those two levers, Stacy, better response time to overeating episodes and reduced frequency, that's what causes weight loss. Not like, oh, I've miraculously created this brand new brain in my head that is completely resistant to any triggers that I've ever had. That's a bit of a fantasy. It's, I can reduce the frequency of how often I overeat, which means weight loss is now back on the menu. If you'll pardon the pun, weight loss is back on the menu because you've reduced the frequency of these episodes. But if you do overeat, you know exactly how to respond. And that is what I teach you in my program. It's the food noise frameworks. Remember the SOS method and things like that. You've got to understand exactly what it is in that moment. And you might assume that, oh, I realized through yesterday's biscuit raid, it was actually because I was anxious or I didn't have enough time for myself in between jobs and I was looking for dopamine. Okay, I've got to be aware of that tomorrow. What could I do if I find myself in that situation again? And then just through trial and error, you learn about yourself and you just say over time, wow, I'm a totally different person. That's not happening anywhere near as much as it used to. And I guess I've literally just spoiled your next part of the story. But yeah, there you go.
No, that's all right. No, Um, I love self-awareness. I love working on that and learning about, because we're constantly evolving, we're constantly changing. So the work that we did on trying to identify triggers, I found that, even though it's really difficult, I found that really fascinating because once I could identify the trigger, I could then dig a little deeper and be like, well, why is that triggering? Why is that upsetting? Why is that angering? And it just gave me a much broader sense of self when I could dissect, why is that so upsetting to me? And a lot of it went back to years ago. It's still something that I've carried, and it's still affecting me. And I didn't like having, well, something so small having such a profound control over me so many years later, if that makes sense. So it was really good for self-reflection and doing that personal work.
Yeah. Of course, everyone's individual, and I can't say, oh, this is what particularly triggers you, and that's applicable to Susan around the corner and Dave around the street. Like, everyone's unique and individual. That's why I do coaching the way I do, get to know people, get to understand people. But I can generalize here. But generally, people are using food for some sort of escape. It's like, because in that moment, you don't like how you feel emotionally, you don't like how you feel physically, you don't like how your day is going. You're worried about something, you're trying to regain control because you feel out of control. Generally, overeating is about escape. It's about escaping something or avoiding something. And the specific nuance will be different for every individual, but that's essentially what it is. And like you said, once you become aware of, that's the trigger that then gives me these feelings. And then when the trigger gives me these feelings, I don't know how to respond to these feelings. And through repetition and my past experience, my brain just goes, oh, now's the time to have a biscuit. And you've got to unravel that. You've got to unravel it from the point of overeating. Where does it start? And I was saying this to one of my newer clients this week, Stacey. I went, the binge that you think you had on Friday night didn't start on Friday night when you first started eating. It started on Friday morning, the moment you opened your eyes. What happened that day? what circumstances led to you feeling in that dysregulated state where you went back to your original coping mechanism. And it's conversations like this and doing the work, like you said, doing the self-awareness, because I can't do all that for you. I can point you in the right direction and give you the tools, but you've got to do the deep dive, the dig into the deeper parts of yourself. And you did that brilliantly well. So what would you say was the hardest part of this whole process, Stacy?
Other than the initial jump to reach out and say, I need help, because that took me a while to do. I did, like I said, I've been watching your content for about a year. I sat on the fence quite a while. That was probably the scariest moment because it was just massively out of my comfort zone. Following that, it would have been just being completely vulnerable. I mean, your questioning and your techniques, you don't tell people what they should be doing. Your questioning allows me to troubleshoot myself, if that makes sense. Now, you might put forward framework and tools and techniques, but when I'm in the middle of some sort of crisis or triggered episode, your questions are helping me to self-resolve, which I always found really admirable, but it was also really scary. And I don't necessarily find asking for help or being vulnerable easy. So there were often times where we'd be on the phone and, you're a great listener and you let me troubleshoot. And then once I sort of come undone over what it was, we'd got to the root of what was the cause or the trigger that day, you would then have all this wisdom and advice, and I could just be sitting there silently sobbing down the phone, trying not to let on that I'm crying to you. But it was everything that I needed in that moment. It was maybe a firm conversation. We talked about boundaries. You're not setting those boundaries. Why you're not doing that? Or it was do you know what I mean? Like, your advice was always consistent. You were always very compassionate. And even when it was a stern talking to that I needed, it still came from a place of kindness. It was just a lot more assertive. And I think sometimes it can be hard. It can be hard to receive that because you might have to hear the same thing over and over. And if you don't like that, that's a me problem. You're not going to go home and lose sleep because I won't help myself. It's like, I've done all I can for you, but you need to take accountability. Why are we still stuck here? What's keeping you trapped in this moment? Why are we not moving past this block? So it's just, so for certain things, certain triggers weren't necessarily, it could be a person. And if that person is someone really close to you, well, now I know I've got to confront that person. And how do I do that? Because I don't want the confrontation. I don't want to have that discomfort. But if I don't have the conversation, I can't move forward. So it was difficult to reach back to you. So for an example, if I've clashed or butted heads with my husband over something, he was a very big trigger in a lot of circumstances. That's my person. That's who I'm closest to. And I'm running to you to be like, he's said and done this and he's not doing that and he's stressing me out. So I'm sitting here with you crying upstairs while he's downstairs oblivious to what I'm going through. And that awareness of how far we had disconnected was really uncomfortable. Necessary, but it's uncomfortable to share that with someone.
Yeah. Yeah. You probably heard me pull this joke before, but I'm not really joking. I just like to put a humorous spin on things because that's kind of my personality. I go, I'm not a relationship coach, but I might as well be, because literally every time I do a phone call with someone on my program, it's about someone else who's triggered them. Now, it doesn't have to be that romantic part, or sometimes it is, but it's like, this lady at work's really pissed me off, or my mum or my dad made this comment about me. I'm talking about full-grown adults, sometimes in their 60s, who are still like at war with their parents who are in their 90s, and I'm like, whoa, this whole eating habit stuff is the tip of the iceberg, because it's all of the circumstances that one has going on in their life that contribute to their eating habits. So, absolutely. But just to back you up there a little bit, Stacy, because you give me some amazing compliments there about coaching and whatnot. I agree with you and I appreciate that. But I've got to understand, is this person receptive? And on my coaching journey, I've coached 2,000 women. Do you think every single one of those women has been receptive to my techniques that I know are foolproof? But if I make the wrong judgment call about like, right, is this person ready to hear the truth? If I slightly time that wrong, sometimes that can be where they just don't understand it. They get really triggered and they miss the point of what I'm trying to say. So you are brilliantly aware enough, and you are willing to hold up that mirror, because that's all coaching is. Eventually, I'm like, this person needs to be self-sufficient. I can't babysit them forever. I need to get them to become self-sufficient. So I've got to hold up a mirror That's all I do. I ask questions. I get you to see a different perspective. Then I hold that space for you to maybe disagree a little bit and go back and forth and say, I don't understand that. Can you explain it again? And all I've got to do is hold that space. But again, I can't be responsible for your perception. So the reason why all these techniques that I teach worked for you brilliantly well is because you were willing and vulnerable in that moment. It is vulnerability. That is the hardest part. I believe everything I teach can work for the individual if they are willing to be vulnerable and honest, not just with me, with themselves. People who are
Mhm.
not willing to be honest with themselves stay stuck, and that's just a fact.
Absolutely. The discomfort is where the work is. So as much as you want to avoid it, that's exactly where you need to focus your effort.
Exactly. It's not exactly nice talking about what triggered you, Sam, I overate last night. Okay, will you tell me about what happened that day? If you've had a big bust up with a family member, you might not want to share that.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I get it. But if these are the things that's contributing to, because emotional eating's a nervous system response. It's a last-ditch attempt by the body to go, I feel overwhelmed, make me feel better. It's like a baby. Baby cries, mum comes, mum soothes baby, baby feels comforted. On some strange level, it's a primal response. Yes, we're not getting breastfed by mum in our 40s and 50s, of course, or at least you shouldn't be. Um, different, whatever. Um, Well, that's essentially what we're doing, right? It's like, I don't feel good enough. Please make me feel safe. A baby can't articulate its emotions, so it just gets comforted. In some strange way, that's what we're doing as adults. But if we're not willing to go, well, what was it that made me feel uncomfortable? Then we're never getting to the bottom about why you're in that position of wanting to soothe with food in the first place, which means we can kiss weight loss goals goodbye. The pursuit of weight loss goals without awareness about what triggers you to overeat, it's a pointless endeavor. It's so frustrating that so many women will find themselves in a position where they're like, I've tried to lose weight for 30 years and nothing works. And they'll actually believe nothing works. They'll just be like, I'm someone who can't lose weight. It's this, it's that. I'm stuck. And I'm like, that's not true. That is absolutely not true. You've just never pursued it in the correct way by understanding what is food symbolic of. Food is symbolic of me in that moment using it to soothe, but soothe from what? And I can't reveal the what. I can just ask the question. You've got to go, yeah, it's this situation, it's this emotion, it's this thought I've got in my head that's rattling round about how I'm not good enough. And, why is that? And is that standards are you holding yourself accountable to? Is that unrealistic targets? Is that unmet expectations? Is that maybe disappointments that you need to let go of and grieve in your life? Is that an identity conflict? Like, where's that coming from? And like I said right at the start of this conversation, you are like a superwoman. You took everything on very, very fast. Very, very fast. You absolutely did. So let's look at the transformation now. So obviously it's like over a year later. Yeah, you are still talking about some of the main insights you've had. So what does your relationship with food look like now compared to before? What are the key changes? Also the body image, I would like to think that you have an improved body image because I see your Facebook posts and you are celebrating your body
Yeah.
and how confident you are these days. And it's lovely to see.
Yeah. I'm not going to say that I'm 100% healed. That's not reality. My mindset is so much better because I guess in my head, the thought was I'm going to lose all the weight. I'm going to hit that magic number on the scale or that magic jean size, and I'll be able to post that before and after picture on my social media and be like, "Da-da! I did it. I'm summertime fine," or whatever. Um, but then what? And it's taken me a while to shift that mindset that you can do all the things, lose the weight, but that's not a happy ever after goal. Your metabolism is not going to go, oh, great, we made it. Now we're going to stay here. The female body, especially, is always changing. It's always evolving. And I think I needed to get out of my head that reaching my ideal weight is an end goal. It's not. It's a lifestyle change, and it's going to be an ongoing change. I'm going to continue to age. My metabolism is always going to be up and down. My hormones are up and down because I'm perimenopausal. I'm constantly evolving. So it's archaic to think that sticking to a diet for 6 to 12 months and you hit a magic weight, that's happy ever after. It's not. So I don't obsess over my body condition. Is it where I want it to be? No. But I'm not shaming myself. I'm not hanging up cute outfits around the house that don't fit as incentive. I'm not hiding from mirrors. I'm not avoiding social events. I've joined a pole fitness class, which you need to wear minimal clothing because you rely on your skin contact to stick to the pole. So not only am I hanging out socially, these are people I don't even really know. It's a whole new community, and I'm having to get my kit off to get the job done, which is I would never have done that 2 years ago. I won't even get dressed up to hang out with my friends for a dinner. Why would I put on a two-piece and swing around a pole? Um, Swimming with my children, we go swimming on a regular basis to work out, and it's just teaching my boys being comfortable in my skin. My body might not be what I want it to be, but we're working on it today, and we're going to do that with swimming. So I'm writing a book about boudoir photography. Again, it's exposure. It's about the female body. So it's all my passions and things that I've wanted to try have come back into my life. It's opened up new communities and new friendships. And all right, there's still goals to reach. I've got a much stronger understanding of myself, and it's okay to just be a work in progress. There is a peace of mind that has come with that. I am sad that I didn't have coaching with you for longer because I think I could have hit certain goals a lot quicker. Purely the reason I stopped coaching was for financial reasons. I think I would have smashed a lot more goals a lot sooner. But I am feeling quite independent. I don't feel that my goals are unattainable. I can be
That means it was
self-sufficient.
a success. That means it was
My
a
time
success
with
because
you was
eventually,
very, very valuable.
yeah. That means it's a success because my goal is to get someone to become self-sufficient. And what you just said there about it, the work that we did, it unlocked not just a healthier relationship with food, but a healthier relationship with your body and self-expression. I think that is the antidote to people talk about low self-esteem and low self-worth and not feeling good enough. What do you think the antidote to that is? It's the polar opposite. It's not that I'll be happy when I reach the weight. It is I can pursue my weight loss goals while being happy now. You have more likelihood of reaching those goals if you create the circumstances that make you happy now. If you're not expressing yourself as an individual, now I'm not saying everyone has to do pole dancing like you did, or if I'm getting the wrong word, I do apologize, but that was your chosen work. That was your chosen thing. I'm just talking about self-expression. So full circle. First thing we talked about in this conversation, it was like, yeah, you don't have any hobbies. You don't express yourself. You don't put you first. You're not being a sense of an individual anymore. Once you rediscover that self-expression, that is where self-esteem is built. And
Mhm.
you did that. And that is why you're able to go, well, I'm actually happy now and I'm still pursuing my goals, and that's okay. You've just changed the deadline. You've took the pressure off yourself. You accept that the female body is constantly changing. And you mentioned like perimenopause and things like that before. Does that play a role in weight loss and metabolism? Of course it does. Let's not lie about that. It absolutely plays a role. Does it make it impossible? No. Far from it. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh yeah, you can't lose weight if you're in the menopause. That's a lie. But does it make it harder? Are you 18-year-old anymore? No. You're not going to be the same person you were when you were younger. And you have to factor a few of those things in. But look at the life you've built now in pursuit of that goal. And it's a total game changer. So I really appreciate you sharing that. So I've got one or two more questions for you, Stace, before I let you go, because we've been chatting for an hour. I could talk to you for hours, by the way. You know I could. But you've got a life, haven't you? And I want to ask you one or two things because you mentioned about sitting on the fence before, right? And how you watched my content for like a year before you actually made yourself known and went, hello, Sam, I'm Stacy. I've been following you a long time and here I am. This is so common, you know. Do you know how many people reach out to me and go, Sam, I've been following you for years and I think I
I
need some
believe
help.
it.
It's the standard, you know. So not only does sitting on the fence give you bum splinters, get off the fence, you'll feel a lot better. It's obviously a very real thing. So what is your
Yeah.
advice for someone who's maybe listening and going, oh my God, I resonate with Stacey's story. I've been following Sam for a long time as well. I've been lurking around for years thinking I maybe need help, but I haven't committed. What is your advice for them to even open the door of the possibility for getting some help on the relationship with food?
I don't try to give advice to anyone because I think deep down, we all know what we need. It comes down to acknowledgement. You have to realize that if you're sitting on the fence, someone like yourself is not going to come up and pull that person off and drag them into the program. Like you said, you've got to want to help yourself. No one's coming to save you. No one's going to force you to sign up and get the help and get the tools that you need. So if I think, if you're sitting on the fence and you're thinking about it, just you just have to take a leap of faith. You have to try it. And if you don't like where you are and you're stuck, what's the worst that can happen? It's something that you tried and it didn't work. Well, then you're no worse off, but you might be better for it. So I don't want to be sort of like, you must do it now, but there needs to be some sort of acknowledgement that if you're going to sit on the fence, you'll be left there. You're only going to come down when you choose.
So I call it the hole in the roof analogy, Stacy. Like, let's say someone buys a house, in the year, what is the year now, 2026. Someone buys a house in 2006, right? They notice that when it really rains heavily in the winter, a little bit of a leak comes in the back kitchen. And it's easy enough to put a little beaker under it. It might be half full in the middle of the night, and it might only happen 2 or 3 times a year. And then let's say 2016 comes along and that same leak is there. And it's like, God, anytime it rains now it comes in. It's not just when it's heavy. Okay, we're going to put the bucket out every time it rains. And let's say 2026 comes around, the roof caves in. That didn't happen overnight. That happened as a result of not dealing with the problem back in 2006. You ignored a leak in the roof for so long and you didn't get it fixed until all the roof was rotted. Again, I'm not a structural engineer. I don't know what a roof's made out of, but I'm going to use it for today's analogy. All the beams are now rotted because you allowed the damp to seep in. It got bigger and bigger and bigger. It pooled in specific areas. One bad storm, your roof caved in. Now you've got a £30,000 problem, or even more depending on how big your house is, where for a couple of thousand back in 2006, you could have sorted that section of the roof out. This is people's lives. You're right, I can't drag them off the fence. They're glued to it until they decide to jump off themselves. There's nothing I can do. But what I can do is say, where's this going to go if you don't get a help with this now? And even if that helps not me, maybe some people don't like my personality. Sam, you crack too many shitty jokes for my liking. I don't like your accent. Whatever. People might have their reservations about me, but just accept you need some help. Just accept you need some help because you can't do it on your own. I never did it on my own. I've had relationship coaches, psychotherapists, mindset coaches, business coaches. I've had the full works, right? And I've got multiple coaches in my corner right now because I know I need a fresh pair of eyes on me to help me understand me, because I am completely guided by my past experiences, my own emotional biases, my own cognitive distortions. This is human nature. This is why having someone from the outside to help you, support you, but listen to you, but also give you that balance of the appropriate amount of arse kicking when you need it is vital. So yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. I've got one more question for you, Stacy, if you don't mind. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Where do you think your life would be now if you never initially reached out and made that decision to get some help?
Well, we both know my husband would still be with me despite the arguments because he can't afford to divorce me. I would probably be still sat on the fence with splinters. There is a sadness because my mindset is so much better. I wish that I had done something sooner because there is a sadness for the time wasted. And those younger versions of me really needed that kindness and that compassion. So that does make me a little sad that it's taken me this long to do something. I think I don't think I'd be any different. I think I would just be stuck. I would be very sad. I wouldn't have that sense of community. I wouldn't have that self-confidence, and my biscuit tin would be empty. Nothing good would have come from not reaching out. I literally got to the point, like I said, I broke down and was crying to my husband about it. I was burnt out when I finally acknowledged that I needed help. So I don't think anything good would have come from not reaching out. I just would have spiraled maybe deeper emotionally, which is quite a scary thought.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's a brilliant response and a brilliant way to wrap up the conversation. But yeah, Stacy, I can't thank you enough for not only working together and helping me out with my spelling with the book as well, and more things, and now being a friend. Like, this is the best part of my job, honestly. It's seeing people's transformation, of course, is brilliant, but then making these connections for life, where people who I'm not working with anymore will sometimes just reach out and be like, hey, Sam, just giving you an update. Life's going amazingly well. Here's what I'm doing. And just, honestly, I can't even put it into words. It's the best part of what I do. It's what motivates me to get up every morning. So I'm as grateful to you that you are maybe to me, because this works both ways. This coaching, it's a synergy, it's a two-way street. And it's just a wonderful thing. So thank you for being you.
Thank you. I do really appreciate our time together, but I am still making progress. And the goals are different. I don't obsess over, oh, I need to lose weight. Now it's more, I want to be strong. I want to age better. Like the mindset is a lot more mature and realistic. So yeah.
Fantastic. And on that note, Stacy, I'm gonna let you go. Thank you, everyone, who listening to this. If anything does resonate with you, check out the details in the comments below. Got a bunch of free resources that'll help you get started on healing your relationship with food. And there is a link if you wanted to book a call with me to have a chat to see how we can actually help you. Maybe that is something that is in your next steps. But thank you so much for being a guest on today's conversation, Stacy.
You're
Bye,
welcome.
everyone.
Thank you.